You're such an asshole!
Hey all, Cappy here. We're going to do a video request. If you have a request, you want me to give you my advice, consultation, wisdom, or swift kick in your ass, you can go to assholeconsulting.com. And today we're going to talk about the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, James writes. Thanks for the email. Oh wait, no, that's me writing back. Alright, this is what James wrote. The current hype of this presidential election is the stance on this massive trade deal, which the mainstream media, not surprising, isn't really releasing any information on. Currently, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders are against it, while Hillary Clinton is truly for it, since she's a lying bitch. Currently, what are your stances on this trade deal, and what effect do you think it will have on the country? How many jobs will we lose, and what effect will it have on affordable medicine, etc.? Let me answer your last general group of questions. What effect do you think it'll have on the country, and how many jobs will we lose? And what effect will it have on affordable medicine? I don't know. We don't know. I would say it will probably have a positive effect on the country. I know I'm not the Alex Jones conspiracy theorist type because I've read through a little bit of it, actually. Finally found a declassified, or maybe it's a classified copy. I'll provide the link down below. And thankfully they highlighted like their main concerns. And it's a beast of a... I mean, if you want me to read through the whole damn thing, we're talking $1,000 worth of my time. Because it's boring ass shit. I mean, it's not like you're reading, oh, I wonder if they're going to get the good guy in the end, or the bad guy. Oh, geez, I hope they fly those P-51s real fast. There's nothing. This is a boring, dry trade document, as you'd expect it, to sort of find these little bits and pieces. So it is good. They did a great job highlighting some of the key things that they might be concerned. Anyway, the effect on the country is not going to really have much of an effect. I think it will outsource some more jobs, some more manufacturing jobs, but it will also boost our white collar jobs, if you want to, not public sector jobs, trade, not even trade. Manufacturing might take a little bit of a hit. I think we will, however, gain more in terms of intellectual property, which is a huge sticking point with these guys. But in general, it's making... I'll explain it later, but this is not like we're going to steal this country's industry and we're going to steal that country's industry and we're going to ruin it, and no, it's the Illuminati that controls everything in the end. That's not what this trade agreement is. So I think it will have probably not a huge... I mean, this isn't going to save the country. I mean, we're still going to have... Our debt to GDP is still break 125 by the time 2020 rolls around, so don't worry, this is going to save us, but it might slow it down a little bit. I mean, it might just slow us down a little bit. How many jobs will we lose? I think it'll be a net positive gain of jobs. The issue is whether we want to learn how to program or get higher skilled type things, not just bang out presses and stuff like that. Plus, I think automation, don't worry about the Chinese, and the Chinese aren't even part of this deal. Don't worry about cheap foreign labor getting rid of American industry. Worry about robots doing that. That's what I'd be worried more about. And what kind of effect will it have on affordable medicine? I don't think it'll really have much of an effect here in terms of medicine, but we don't know. We have no idea. This is a huge, not just in terms of the people involved, the countries and the GDPs involved, but it's a wide-ranging trade deal. But I think in general it will lower real prices, adjusting for inflation. But nothing. This is not going to be the savior of us all. This is some of the stats I saw were really like, maybe $500 billion. Well, yeah, we'll take it, but it's not going to revolutionize our industry. So let's go to my notes here and we'll explain. All right. In order to understand the trade deal, any trade deal, you have to understand trade. Okay, and there's a damn good economic reason for trade, and I'll explain here. Have some examples, all right? With trade, we get to eat Swiss chocolates, we get to drink Russian vodka, foreign countries get to buy our U.S. fighter planes, and we get to drink Guatemalan coffee. All right, that's what trade allows. Now imagine a world where you're not allowed to trade, you keep everything in-house, all right? Okay, now everybody's got to produce their own shit. So these poor people down in Guatemala, they got to produce their coffee, they got to produce their fighter planes. I'd love to see a Guatemalan fighter plane. They got to make their own vodka, Guatemalan vodka. You can see it. The United States, look, we make our own chocolate. It's called Hershey's, and it sucks. It just sucks, all right? So, and Russians, do you really want Russian coffee? Do you really want turpentine? So you can see where different countries and different peoples with different climates and different resources are better at growing some things. Like you can't grow coffee in Alaska. I'm sure somewhere you can maybe, but for the most part, it's better if you have a tropical climate. You guys grow your coffee there. For whatever reason, the Swiss are really good at making chocolates. For whatever reason, the United States is really good at making plains. And for whatever reason, the Russians are very good at making vodka. So let's agree to we'll put our resources into producing excellence, and then we will trade the surplus higher quality goods, and probably cheaper goods as well, through trade. So that's the simple economic philosophy behind trade and why you'd want to do it. You increase standards of living, you lower costs, everybody's happier. Now, here's the problem. That's theory. When you try to do this in the real world, well, you have different countries, and different countries have different rules, all right? For example, China has a lot of state-owned enterprises, and one of the fears that they have is what's called dumping, where China will dump their steel or they'll dump their cars. The state, the government, will subsidize a state-owned enterprise or their car companies to make really, really cheap cars. They will export it to the United States, will put all the other U.S. automotive companies out of business, and then over the long haul, China would be able to monopolize the globe by undercutting all of its competitors, and then they'd be the only auto industry left. Also, tariffs. We could put, people want to do protectionist measures. It's like, well, we gotta, Hershey's says that they lobby the government, say, we don't want Swiss chocolates here. Our chocolates suck and we're lazy. We don't ever want to improve our Hershey Kisses. So they lobby government to put a tax on Swiss chocolates. 500%. No one can afford Swiss chocolate anymore. So we're stuck with the shitty Hershey's chocolate. So that's another thing they like to get rid of. What else? Something as simple as like, okay, what are your standards when we bring goods in? How do we get this stuff cleared through customs? If you are a company and you're trying to sell to 20 or 30 different countries, you have to have 20 or 30 different processes or packing or all this other shit. The costs increase multifold. Now, if we all get on the same plan and say, hey, we're all going to have, X as a standard. For example, here's one we already have, like the Maersk. You see them, they come in off the ships, the containers, those shipping containers. Well, then they go right onto semi-trucks. Well, that's all standardized, so it can be done in the United States and China and Taiwan or Europe or wherever else. So in other words, it was kind of like what the original, any trade agreement is kind of like the EU, what its intention was. Like, look, we got 30, 50 different countries here. We all have different currencies. We all have different standards. Some are imperial, some are metric. Let's standardize some shit to make it easier for the people and the businesses, not to mention governments, to conduct business. And so that is what this TPP sets out to do. And I've read through it and skimmed it, and I'm like, it's just a trade deal, guys. It's boring as shit. So that's what it is. Anyway, now some of the problems people have with the TPP. I've listed them here. This is, and I have to say, I went online thinking like, okay, someone's got to have like a really good seminar, really good. Well, not really, because one, the agreement has been kept secret, and now it's been leaked so you can find it. And then two, no one's done a really good, in-detail job of delving into it, or they did, and they just found these few key sticking points. So if you listen to the media, go on YouTube, you watch any video, it's these like 3 or 4 things, right? So the first one, they're like, oh my God, pharmaceuticals will be able to keep their patents. It'll be big pharma. A lot of concessions were given to big pharma. And it's like, really? And this is under the larger domain of copyright and patent protection. It's like, really? So, Merck and Abbott, who spend billions of dollars developing these life-saving drugs, they're not entitled to the profits. What if you take away their copyright protection, not copyright, patent protection? You think they're going to invent these drugs anymore? It's such a simple, this is such a low IQ argument. And I hate to sound so arrogant and cocky, but it is a low IQ argument. It's like, oh, it's the big pharma, man. It's the big corporations. Like, you do realize if they didn't have big profits, they wouldn't be spending billions into researching and developing and coming up with these life-saving drugs. And yeah, you got to honor their patent for 17 years. And yeah, it's going to be expensive, but that's better than debt. And if you didn't pay these profits, they wouldn't come up with these fucking drugs. So the United States, because we have such a large pharmaceutical industry, we're like, hey, internationally you're going to protect our fucking patents, And you people who copycat them before the patent expires, before you can legally make them generic, fuck you. You don't get protection. So that's got the left of the, well, what are the poor going to do? I don't know. Maybe the poor should stop breeding and having kids. Maybe that would be the first thing you stop doing right there. So you don't have to worry about disease and infestation and shit like fucking Zika or malaria or shit that's coming back. All right? Why don't you just take care of your kids first and not have any and only have the kids you can afford? Then you can maybe afford the medicines. Maybe live healthy lifestyles and stop raping babies because you think it gets rid of AIDS. I don't know. Just things. That aside. Another thing they're worried about is this International Settlement Court. They're like, oh, there's a new court and a new law. And then corporations could sneakily go into this and they could pick and choose. And it's like, yeah, okay, they can pick and choose. Yeah, but here's the main reason for having an international court or international law is how do you solve trade disputes? Where does a company go, or let's say a supplier has a problem with their retailer, and the supplier's in Australia and the retailer's in the United States. Well, which judicial system do you go under? Australia, the United States? All right. Well, yeah, obviously each party, plaintiff and defendant, are going to go and try and go where it's best for them. That's no different than what we do in the United States. You try and go to a state court. Do you want to go to federal? What's in your best interest? So I don't see, it's like, they make it sound, Robert Reich should be ashamed of himself. He did this shitty 2-minute video. It was like, oh my God, it's all bad. It's all bad. It's like, dude, did you even read any of this? And he's like, it's been done in secret, and it's for the big corporations, and it's going to hurt. I'm like, really? Really? At least I'm an honest economist to say, I don't know what's going to fucking happen. At least I'm honest about that. But it's anyway. So whenever I hear, big corporations, big business, I'm always like, yeah, you sound like an ideologue that really didn't look into this too much. And yeah, of course it's going to be big corporations. We're talking international trade. We're not talking mom, pa's fucking, coffee hut down over at the mall. All right, we're talking General Motors, General Electric, Mitsubishi, Rio Tinto, large corporations. That's who typically engages in international trade. So unless it's highlighted, I went through these highlights. I didn't see it. I was like, oh my God, let's give big government. They literally big government's going to run the countries. It's like, dude, you guys already believe that now, and we already, and to a certain extent, you are right because you allow them to bribe. You have lobbyists, and we're not able to get rid of that for some reason. So how is it any different now? How is it? Maybe our big corporations could start screwing over foreign countries instead of us for a change, right? Using your logic. Anyway, I didn't see anything that's like, oh my God, the big corporation. I'm fine with big corporations. They make cheap and good shit, and they employ lots of people. I don't like it when they lobby and they try to get favorable treatment. I don't like bailing them out. I understand. We're all on the same page there. But right now, just because it's an international trade agreement doesn't mean it's big business. I mean, Obama wants this. You think Obama is big business type guy? He's not necessarily against, but I don't know when logic comes in and unroots your ideology. So that's another thing is this International Settlement Court. Yeah, we're going to need some vehicle by which companies or peoples, plaintiffs and defendants from differing countries have a way to agree, and that we all agree upon. Because you can always then say, yeah, fuck you. I'm going back to the United States. You can't touch me over there, Australia. It's like, okay, there's got to be something that we all agree to. It's like the World Trade Organization, if you want to look that up. Now, one thing two things. One thing, the first one, is people are worried that Obama wants this fast-tracked through Congress, which means there's no amending and all that. And I can understand where you don't want some omnibus crap attached to this shit. He probably just wants to get it passed, yes or no vote. But still, that kind of is like, oh, really? Not that Congress reads what's in the bill anyway. I mean, we all know Obamacare. Nobody read it. They didn't even skim it. Yep, there we go. We have to approve the bill to see what's in the bill. So there's that. And then also, akin to that as well, Nancy Pelosi, is that this thing has been secret until it was leaked. And even then, you don't know what it is because it hasn't been ratified. Hang on, let me look this up. Let's pull it up. I don't think it's been ratified yet. I want to give you the accurate Transportation Partnership Wiki. Okay. Including 7... Yeah, it's currently waiting ratification to enter force, the 30 just. So people signed it on the 4th, has been ratified. Okay. So, anyway, this was all secretive. No one knew what it was. And then the arguments are like, look, we can't tell people what we're doing because if we don't bring it to the table, or if we tell everybody everything, then we're going to alienate some countries we'd like to get some concessions from. We don't want to tip our hand. Okay, but you know what? When you're talking government policy, and you're the fucking president that was basing your thing on transparency, well, let's see some of that fucking shit. So I'm a little concerned about it, but then when you get the latest version of the TPP, because it has to be ratified, with, 12 countries are going to make changes, last-minute deals. So whatever the latest version is not going to be the final version of the TPP. But when you read through it, I don't know. I'm sure there's some reason they kept it secret, but I'm not saying it. It's a very, very boring fucking document. It's just a trade agreement as far. I mean, yep, that makes sense. Yep, that makes sense. Then there is one other thing that I really do I'm concerned, but I think it was just poor wording. It says, and they highlight it, and it says, domain name registrants, there should be a database of people who are publicly available. And I think what the intent of the law, and I know intent versus how it's going to be used, I understand that. But the intent sounds more like, hey, look, we should be able to look up somebody, not necessarily where they live or who their parents are or do they have children, what school their children go to, but we should be able to contact the person running that site. Now, I don't agree with that. I have a feeling this might be one of those things that struck out. But out of pages, volumes of pages, this one little thing, but that can be striked out. And the way it's written, I'm not like, we want to know exactly where everybody lives. I think it's like, hey, if we got somebody, I don't know, doing terrorism or whatever, give it to us. But I think the FBI and other countries' domestic terrorism or terrorism squads could probably go ahead and legally get that in with a court order. But anyway, so those are the big things, and when you look them up in the TPP report or agreement, and I'll provide the link below, you go through it, and they literally highlight, and they even provide questions, and you really got to be reading into this to come up with these conclusions, to draw these conclusions that Big Pharma is going to go and take over China, and even though China's not it. You really have to be these conspiratorial type people. And if you go there, and this is why I recommend you do, I'll put the link below, go there, and they highlight, they did a great job organizing it. They really did. And they highlight kind of like the bold, like, okay, here's where the key, there's like 14, 15 chapters. Here are the key ones we have issues at. You click on it, and then you can just scroll, and they highlight, hey, there's something here. But they also provide notes, like why they think this would be a potential problem. And they're just like, oh yeah, man, like, just wait till fucking the fucking Koch brothers come in. I mean, it is the 19-year-old anarchist, socialist, libertarian, trench coat wearing dude, conspiracy theorist, like making a bunch of conjecture and theorizing and jerking off to his conspiracy theories. And you look at them, they're kind of wimpy lefty type, the type who want to read in, the whole world's out to get us, the Illuminati's there, dare I say even the Alex Jones type of people on the right might do that. But anyway, read through it for yourself if you want. The old captain's take is, I'm not worried about this thing. If you look through it, the vast majority is mind-numbing bullshit. Like, okay, here's how we're going to solve international disputes. Here's how we're going to have our customs streamlined. Here's how we handle the environment. Here's how we're going to protect the ozone layer. This is not exactly this right-wing evil document, because if it was, they wouldn't have a fucking entire chapter on environmental protections. So yeah, I have to go default back to my basic economic knowledge or theory or philosophy, and that is free trade will improve the lives of those who participate in it. I mean, we have trade, that's all we do anyway, via money, through a medium of exchange, domestically, opening yourself up to the global market, and agreeing on some basic rules, as long as we don't get so controlling like the EU did, and start dictating kind of like, it started to encroach on sovereignty, instead of just like having, okay, here are the rules we're going to agree to with the EU in terms of trade. All of a sudden they start barking orders, and Britain's like, yeah, fuck you, we're out of here. So you really gotta pull this off. Is it really just going to be a trade agreement, or are we going to start saying, well, if you want this, now we want these political concessions as well, or we want your people to do this? There's a little bit of that, like, and for logical reasons, like if you want to be part of this trade agreement, you can't have slave labor or child labor. Okay, we get that. But we're all saying like, well, you need to have these environmental controls in parts per million because we think it's just a little, like, you're like, whoa, we'll do what we want. Thank you very much. So anyway, I won't worry or lose sleep over it. It could turn out to be the worst thing ever. I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to be a net negative to us. We might lose a little bit of jobs. We'll gain, I think, more. But this is not, the day this is signed, this goes into action. Don't expect the job figures to post, 700,000 new jobs. It's just not. It's just we got bigger issues to worry about domestically than this thing. Best of luck to all of you. Toodles.